Hello and welcome to the Gameweek 19 edition of the FPL Scope podcast. I am your host Mathias and I am by myself. My two co-hosts, Kevin and Kimo, are both traveling back from vacations in their home countries. Kimo has been in Egypt for about a month and he'll be soon returning back to Norway and be back on the podcast. He's been gone from the podcast ever since he went to Egypt. He's been having a nice time off, vacation back in sunny Egypt. Gotten his mood back, being in the sun. He doesn't like being in Norway in cold and dark Norway in winter time. So he's had an amazing time in Egypt, and he's going to be back and reinvigorated when he comes back for the Gameweek 20 podcast, which will be in about 2 weeks when the next game week is about to start. Kevin has been home in Sweden for Christmas. He's also traveling back. He lives in London, so he's going to be traveling back to London, and he didn't really have time today to do the podcast, so I'm going to do it myself, like I did for Game Week 17. In terms of what happened in Game Week 18, Cancelo, he's the main man again, because this time he didn't play, luckily. He blocked my 8 Almiron points in Game Week 17, but this time, when it was looking like he was going to do the same with Bueno, he actually stayed on the bench, which was like a Christmas miracle for me. Finally, Cancelo did nothing, and that actually helped me. So I was really happy with that, seeing as Bueno came on, because he kept a clean sheet against Man United before he got subbed off, and Rashford scored. That was the case also for Kevin. He didn't have Cancelo, he had Walker, who also stayed on the bench, and for Kevin as well, Bueno came in for Walker, 6 points for him. The only one who didn't get Bueno off the bench was Kimo, because he actually started Bueno as like the third defender he had. So he also has Cancelo, so he had Patterson come in for a 1-pointer. So he wasn't as lucky as me and Kevin, and ended up with the worst score out of the three of us. But yeah, I'm just going to go through. My throat is a bit weird today, so I'm just going to power through, do the podcast pretty quickly. Take a look at my own team. This is my Game Week 18 team, and my score, 49 points. Pretty disappointing game week, really. Nketiah and Trippier, the two shining lights. Trippier, as always, he's had, I think, 1 blank since Game Week 6 or something. He just keeps getting 8-pointers, 9-pointers, 12-pointers, 7-pointers. Each and every game week, and seeing as I've had him from the start of the season, I'm really happy with that. It's the one thing that's been the bright, shiny light for me in this pretty terrible FPL season for me. One of my worst, probably one of the. Since I started taking it seriously, I think it's looking like it's going to be one of the worst. As you can see in my rank right here, 2.1 million I'm currently at. Pretty terrible. I still have small hope of going into the top 100k, but it's going to be a long, tough ride to get back up there. I think top 500,000 is probably sort of realistic kind of goal for me, but I need to do a lot better than I did this game week. Like I said, Nketiah was really good for me. Got a goal and got 2 bonus points. That was pretty good for me. Arsenal have been just amazing. Beat Brighton 4-2. Trossard didn't do anything. He got only 1 point. He got subbed off pretty early. For Brighton, while Koda Mitoma scored a goal and almost scored another one, but his heel was like slightly offside, which was kind of annoying, even though I didn't have him, and even though it helped me in a fantasy, because if Mitoma's second goal had stood, it would have been 4-3, then Martinelli's 4th goal would have been the winning goal, and he would have gotten 2 bonus rather than Nketiah. So it's actually a 4-point swing in terms of Nketiah and Martinelli for me, that the goal didn't stand, but it's kind of annoying to see Mitoma almost score a brace and then taken away because his heel was slightly offside for a millisecond, and then he gets back to collect the ball and then scores. I don't know how to fix that rule, but I think it's a stupid rule that they need to change. But anyways, Mitoma's not in my team. I did consider him rather than Trossard as like a cost-cutting move, but Trossard is obviously the main man for Brighton, even though he got subbed off right around the hour, which is kind of annoying, seeing as Brighton went on the attack right afterwards and scored a couple goals. Trossard could have easily scored one of those goals. It was the other way for Marcus Rashford, who didn't start the match because he was late to the team meeting before the match. He came on at the half and scored, well, he actually scored 2 goals as well, but one of the goals were disallowed. Yet again, a stupid rule where the ball just hits his arm in front of his body. Didn't really help him at all, the hand, but it's still a handball by the rules today. And VAR changed it, which was kind of annoying, especially as an owner of him in fantasy. Other than that, pretty terrible game week apart from Bueno. I mean, Haaland got 6 points. He got a goal. He always scores, pretty much. But still, 1 goal, 1-1 against Everton. Not what you expect from Man City. Phil Foden again, weirdly benched. Got 1 point for a small cameo off the bench. Cancelo, as I said, luckily stayed on the bench the whole match, leading the way for Bueno. But it's just really sad to see Foden and Cancelo not getting playing time at all under Pep. I don't really understand what he's doing. They now lost 2 points against Everton, and they're 7 points behind Arsenal. And it's starting to look a bit spooky for Man City, keeping the lead in the league, defending their league title from last season. Arsenal are looking really good, so I think Man City need to play their best players going forward, and that's Foden and Cancelo. I think they're going to have to play going forward, and that's why I'm leaning towards keeping them, but I'll get to that later. Just quickly go through the rest of my team. Almiron, benched him last week. He scored a goal. Playing him now, and he doesn't score. Typical. We'll see what he's going to do for me next game week. Harry Kane and Kepa could have saved my game week today. This is recorded right after the Sunday matches. Chelsea drew 1-1 against Nottingham Forest. Another pretty disappointing game from them. Tottenham and Kane lost 2-0 against Aston Villa at home. A dreadful result for them, and they look really bad at the moment. I had Kane finally. I've shunned away from Kane previously in fantasy, and he's punished me every time, and I finally went for him this time, but Spurs are just so bad that I'm thinking about getting rid of him, but I'll get to that pretty soon. Andreas Pereira was benched with 5 points. Sorry about my voice. It's just something in my throat or something. I don't know quite what it is, but I don't want to cough all the time during the podcast, so I'm just going to try to power through. But anyways, Andreas benched. He got a goal. He didn't get a goal, but he shot towards the goal-ish, but it was going wide and then hit Ward-Prowse into the goal, so he got credited with an assist. That got him 5 points. That was benched for me, which was kind of sad, but he's going to get another chance in the team now, seeing as he has a double game week coming up. Kepa didn't keep a clean sheet, but he got a couple saves. He's been really good value for 4.5, and I think it makes sense to just have him. Him and Ward seems like the best goalkeeper combination. That's about it for the team. Gabriel could have scored for Arsenal, could have had the clean sheet. Could have been really lucky if, because Ben White was subbed off in the 59th minute. And Gabriel could have had a clean sheet and even a goal after that. So it could have been like a 15-point swing between Gabriel and Ben White, which was not what I would expect when I... Sorry, that's the throat again. We're being bad for me. But yeah, it could have been a huge 15-point swing, which I didn't expect when I invested this year. The extra 0.5 to get Gabriel rather than... White. But the goal threat is especially why I have Gabriel. Why he's one of my favorite players, because he can always score. He was the top goal scoring defender last season. It's for a reason, because he's really good offensively when it comes to set pieces. Anyways, that's my team. 49 points below average, below the top 10k score. But I had a red arrow, as you can see. One of my worst seasons of all time. 2.1 million. I'm gonna try to get into the top million at least, but we'll see. That's my team. Let's take a look at the fixtures. As I said before, there's a double game week for Chelsea and Fulham. They play each other in the double game week fixture, but before that, Chelsea play Man City, which is kind of not... anyone could do something against Man City, but you're expected to not do much. So it's sort of like a 1.5 game week for Chelsea in my mind. Fulham is easy to score against them, but it's easy to concede against them as well. I'm not so sure about Chelsea going forward. I'm not going to invest in Mount or Havertz after seeing their performance against Nottingham Forest. Mount has had some shots. He's been looking better. He usually turns up against the weaker teams, but I don't really trust Chelsea that much going forward. I do trust Fulham going forward, though, so I'm kind of interested in bringing in Mitrovic. I already have Andreas Pereira, as you saw. He's definitely going to start for me. I might bring in Mitrovic, but we'll look at that when we get to get to my team plans. In terms of the fixture ticker, there's some interesting numbers on the right there. As you can see, expected goals and expected goals conceded. As mentioned with Chelsea, they have been pretty lackluster going forward, and that's reflected in the numbers. They have 5.79 expected goals, which is the worst out of all the Premier League teams the last 6 game weeks. And that's even with playing Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth the last 2 game weeks, and they are some of the worst teams when it comes to expected goals conceded, as you can see on the right there. Bournemouth have 10.24 expected goals conceded, and Nottingham Forest have 10.07, which is really bad. So it's not looking good for Chelsea attacking assets for me. And Aubameyang and Ziyech came on. You don't really know about rotation either. Maybe Howard is benched next game week. Potter has been rotating as well with his team, so I don't really trust Chelsea that much. I mean, Mount is probably going to start both matches, but who knows with Chelsea really. But that's enough about Chelsea. I don't really like to talk about Chelsea that much, especially when my throat is pretty bad. It's not pretty bad, but whatever. Enough about Chelsea. As you can see, Game Week 20, there's also a double Game Week fixture, and that's Man City and Spurs. But that is, even though the fixture is on the fixture ticker and on the official FPL site, that game might not go ahead as planned, because if either of those teams draw in the FA Cup third round, they're going to have to play a replay match in the FA Cup third round, and that will knock away the double game week match with Spurs against Man City. So there's still a slight chance that that match won't be in Game Week 20, and making it just a single game week for both Man City and Spurs. I mean, for Spurs, it doesn't really matter that much. Playing Man City away in the double game week isn't worth much anyway. Spurs have been terrible in big matches this whole season, and now they're pretty bad in easy matches as well. So I'd probably just steer clear of Tottenham as well. Man City, obviously, double game week, really tasty. Like I said, Spurs not that good in big games. Last time Man City played Man United, we remember they won 6-3, hat-trick by Haaland, hat-trick by Foden. It's definitely looking like an interesting game week to see if people triple captain Haaland or not, but that's something we will discuss in next week's episode when both Kimo and Kevin are back. Looking forward to that one. But yeah, just want to make one broader point about the fixture ticker. You can see teams like Nottingham Forest and Southampton at the top here in terms of their easy fixtures, but I think in this year's game, when you have so many options at the lowest price, you have Ward in goal for 4.0, you have defenders like Bueno, Patterson, and even Mathias, who's providing points lately in defense. And then in midfield, you have obviously Pereira, you have Leon Bailey, you've had Somerville, who's been really good for Leeds a couple of times. Almiron is obviously really cheap because Newcastle players and Arsenal players, who are some of the top performing players this season. This year is pretty new. Happy New Year again. But yeah, this season, Newcastle and Arsenal have been two of the best value teams because their players are all undervalued because no one expected them to be fighting against Man City at the top of the league. So those players are really good to have, and that's reflected in the numbers as well. As you can see, Arsenal are just slightly below Man City in terms of expected goals. It's practically the same, and in terms of expected goals conceded, it's exactly the same the last 6 game weeks with Man City. So tripling up on Arsenal, even though they have pretty bad fixtures, it's probably a pretty good idea because they can score against anyone and they can keep a clean sheet against anyone, really. So yeah, that's going to be also for next week's podcast. We're gonna have I'm not gonna be able to do that this week with the weekly wildcard draft and make the case, which we usually do on this podcast. But next week we'll have both of those segments back. They'll make their grand return, and I think in the make the case segment we're gonna have make the case for the 3 Arsenal midfielders. So there's a huge discussion with Ødegaard, the captain, who's been amazing lately for Arsenal, been the best player in the Premier League since it returned after the World Cup, really. And then Saka and Martinelli as well, who have been really good all season. So we're gonna do a make the case comparing those 3 next week. One of each will take turns defending our picks, make the case for one of the players out of those 3. But yeah, Arsenal really good. You can also obviously double up with the midfielders. You can have 2 of them, 2 out of the 3. And you can also have Nketiah like I do. So there's a lot of options. And defensively, you have Gabriel and Ben White. Probably with the tough fixtures, you don't really want to double up on defense with them. But one of them you could easily have, Gabriel or White. So yeah, that's Arsenal. Even though they have tougher fixtures, you should also keep in mind that they have a double game week fixture in game week 23, and they could also get a double game week fixture in game week 21 against Everton, because both Arsenal and Everton are knocked out of the FA Cup, so it should be easy to put that in game week 21. So just keep a lookout for Arsenal players, because they're performing so well and they're such a good team, and they're looking likely to win the league at this point. So yeah, everyone should take note of Arsenal. I think personally I've been really lucky that Liverpool haven't punished me more after the World Cup break. I don't have Salah or Darwin, because I thought they had 3 out of the 4 matches after the World Cup break were away, and they were pretty bad away before the World Cup break. But it seems like at least offensively they've gotten their their shit in order, to be honest. And Darwin and Salah have been getting chances left, right, and center, but they've just been missing chances. So luckily for me, without either of them in my team, I've been really lucky for them not to score. But all the people that have doubled up on them or have one of them will be pretty annoyed. But I still think you should keep the faith, because creating chances is more important than converting chances in terms of FPL. Because comparing like Chelsea to Liverpool, I'd much rather have Liverpool attacking assets, because at least they could score them. Like, you need to get chances to score chances, and sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. They've been really unlucky lately. I mean, Darwin has been sort of not just unlucky, because it's been a pattern for him this whole season, but we know that he can turn it up as well, and he had pretty good expected goal numbers for Benfica last season, so he should be able to score. Pretty soon he's going to have a double-digit game, and you definitely want to keep or have him for that, or keep him for that. Same goes for Salah. What else with the fixtures? Brighton, I have Trossard. I'm going to keep Trossard as well. They have decent fixtures, and like with Arsenal, they might get a double game week in game week 21 with either Bournemouth or Crystal Palace, the likely opponents. They might even get a triple game week. So Trossard, Mitoma, who we saw score 2 goals, one of them getting disallowed for offside. 2 really good options defensively. I mean, defensively they haven't looked that good under the Serbi, and you can see that in the numbers as well. 10.54 expected goals conceded, which is second worst. Only Leeds is worse, and Leeds 13.45. It's pretty terrible. And how they kept the clean sheet against Newcastle, I don't know, because Trippier created 4 chances. That's why he got bonus points despite having a yellow card. And yeah, Newcastle really should have scored and won that game, but they lost 2 points against Leeds, who are really leaky defensively. So I mean, that should bode well for West Ham. But like I said earlier, not really that interested in bringing in players that are not from the best teams in the league, mainly Arsenal, Newcastle, City, Liverpool, and then potentially Brighton offensively, Fulham offensively. Defensively, there's not that many good options really. Defense has been terrible this whole season. So yeah, I think you should mainly just focus on getting those players, the players from the best performing teams. So you should rather look at the expected goals conceded numbers rather than the fixtures they have, because this season I think form has proven to be better than fixtures so far, because you can get really good players for a cheap price across the board really. But that's enough about the fixtures. Let's look at my team for next game week. This is game week 19. My squad, I have 2 available transfers since I didn't do any transfers last week, and I have 1.4 million in the bank. I did consider again selling James and getting in someone else. Luke Shaw has been my top priority these game weeks. Kimo, if he would have followed my advice last game week, he would have gained I think 13 points from having Shaw rather than Patterson in defense, and having Andreas Pereira rather than Mitrovic in attack, and he'd still have Wilson, who's got to be pretty good going forward as well. But he does have Mitrovic this game week. But yeah, enough about Kimo's team. I'm not going to talk that much about him since he's not here to talk about it himself. But yeah, I didn't do the defensive move like him. I didn't sell Reece James, and I thought about bringing in Shaw, which would have helped me, but I didn't do that in the end, and I'm still contemplating that move. I haven't listed it on the right there with potential moves, but it's still in my mind. But the reason I'm against it is that I feel like I have a pretty decent defense anyway. I mean, Newcastle against Arsenal is not the best fixture. You don't really know what's going to happen in that fixture. Two really good teams that could be good defensively, or they could be good offensively. It could be 4-3. It could be 0-0. Who knows, really? But I think Gabriel and Trippier are both really good assets to have for their price. I'm not going to sell them anyway, and I'm not going to bench them anyway, because I think both of them, I mean, they're not at the same time, but either of them could get like 10, 12, 15 points. And then obviously I have Cancelo left as well. Chelsea, like you saw, their expected goals is the worst in the league. So I think Cancelo finally will play now that Pep got punished against Everton, got 1-1. He needs to play his best players, and that's why I sort of want to keep faith in Cancelo and Foden, even though they have been terrible for me all season, like City usually are. It's just Haaland, my fellow Norwegian, who's been good for me. But yeah, the player I'm looking most likely to sell is Harry Kane. He has Crystal Palace away, which is usually a good fixture for him. So, especially considering how bad Crystal Palace is, or how bad Crystal Palace are, depending on how you talk about the team. But yeah, depending on how bad Crystal Palace are, you might want to keep Kane. I mean, Palace beat Bournemouth, but that's not that big of an achievement. I think Bournemouth are looking like they're going to go straight down now. But Kane has been pretty good against Crystal Palace, but Spurs have just been so bad lately that I'm kind of fed up with Kane, and I'm pretty jealous of everyone having Darwin and Mitrovic. So one of those guys I'm likely to bring in this game week. The unfortunate player again is Almiron, who I benched for 8 points in Gameweek 17, and then I played him for 3 points this past game week, and now I'm gonna bench him again and hope that he doesn't score and delete the clean sheet for Gabriel. But that's probably what he's going to do on my bench. But at least he's a good option in case one of my other players don't play. Foden, for example, if he doesn't play once again, or even Haaland. Like, I have Haaland as captain currently. Even if I get Mitrovic, I think I'm still going to go with Haaland as captain. It's sort of a 50-50 decision for me with Haaland or Mitrovic, seeing as Mitrovic has a double game week. But yeah, if I go with Haaland as captain, I'm pretty certain, just the way things have gone with me for City, the one game week where a lot of people are going away from Haaland captain, it's probably going to be the one he's going to get benched for Alvarez or something, and I'm going to be stuck with a small cameo from Haaland at the end, and everyone else getting a lot of points from Mitrovic. I mean, I could see that happening, or Mount, or one of those other players could also be pretty good captains. But yeah, I think even if I bring in Mitrovic, I'm currently leaning towards Darwin, actually, because of the future. I just don't want to waste the transfer getting Mitrovic. If I get Mitrovic this game week, I'm probably going to sell him for Darwin after that. So I think I might as well just do the Darwin move, keep my 2 free transfers, and wait for more double game weeks to be announced, so I have the most flexibility going into the double game weeks coming up. I think that's my plan currently. But yeah, just going to go through the team one by one. In goal, Arrizabalaga. He plays City and Fulham. Don't really think he's going to keep a clean sheet in either of those games, but I don't really think Ward is going to keep a clean sheet against Fulham either. So 2 games are better than 1, even if it's against better teams. Kepa has been really good for Chelsea, so maybe they can lock up the defense and get clean sheets against Man City and Fulham. I doubt it, but at least 1 clean sheet could potentially happen, seeing as he has 2 matches. So it's a no-brainer really to play Kepa. I think most people are doing that this game week if you have him. Cancelo, just gonna keep the faith in him, even though I have cursed him. I'm gonna keep cursing him to help you Arsenal fans. I've been very helpful with that, cursing all the best players for City, apart from Haaland, who's uncursable. But yeah, I'm gonna just keep the faith in Cancelo. I don't think Chelsea will score against City, to be honest. And if Cancelo then finally plays, he's gonna get some points, and he might even play good offensively. In the game he came on for City, I'm blanking on who he played now again. But yeah, when he came on in Gameweek 17, he looked really good. He was almost through on goal as well when the referee blew the whistle. So yeah, I think Cancelo, he's shown against Southampton earlier this season. He got 19 points, a goal and an assist. I didn't have him, obviously. Everyone else had him. He's shown that he has the potential to score a lot of points going forward if he's allowed to. Even though his expected goals and expected goal assists this season haven't been the best, but I'm just going to keep the faith in Cancelo. There's not that many other good defensive options, so I I think you should start him. I've obviously opted in this with these plans. I've opted to start Cancelo rather than selling James and putting Shaw in for Cancelo, because that's probably who I would bench. Because like I said, Gabriel and Trippier, decent options. Both of them could get a huge score. Trippier, especially, he's been so consistent. But I talked about that earlier, so I'm just going to move along from them. Foden as well, keeping faith in him, sort of, in lack of better options. I think if I do Kane to Darwin, I'll be close to be able to upgrade Foden to De Bruyne, which is what I might do if Game Week 20 is a double game week for them. I might just have to get De Bruyne just to have him in the double game week to make sure that I have the best possible City players for the double game week. And then Rashford, mainstay in the team. He was electric again for Man United. He's my vice captain currently, even over Andreas, who's a double game week player. The vice captaincy will move to Mitrovic if I bring him in, but it will not be on Darwin if I bring him in. So you might be wondering why I'm considering Darwin over Mitrovic then, if I have more faith in Mitrovic scoring points this week. But it's like I said earlier, Darwin going forward, I think he's a better option than Mitrovic, excluding this upcoming Game Week 19 game week. Yeah, Trossard as well. Another player I'm just going to have to keep the faith in. Disappointing to see him subbed off at the 60th minute, but what do you know? He might turn up and score a lot of goals. He's also been a troll this whole season, especially for Kevin. So I'm just going to... I said before I brought him in after the World Cup that I'm just going to keep the faith in him and hope that they get the double or triple game week from out of nowhere, and hope that he scores. Trossard has shown that he has a lot of ability. Brighton have been really good going forward under De Zerbi, so I think he has a lot of chances to score going forward, especially against Everton, who have been pretty terrible. Even though they got a draw against Man City, they've been pretty bad. Lost against Wolverhampton. Trossard could easily score against them. Andreas Pereira, no-brainer. I'm going to use him. He's been on my bench most of the season. This is his time to shine. He's shown that he can get a lot of points. Leicester and Chelsea, he could easily score against either of them. He's pretty good cover for Mitrovic as well. If I don't have Mitrovic, obviously doubling up on them, I would put a lot of stock into Fulham. But, I mean, they've shown that they deserve it going forward. They've been really good defensively. Haaland, like I mentioned, most likely going to start. City are kind of desperate now. 7 points behind Arsenal. They need to win. Haaland scores every match. He's been fully rested after the World Cup. He's working himself back to fitness. There's really no reason not to start him except for making me suffer in FPL. And I think if he starts against Chelsea, there's a good chance Man City just win 4-0, 5-0. I feel like City are better against the more adventurous teams, like the teams that are try to win the match. And City have a really good record against Graham Potter teams. Graham Potter's Brighton. They usually score 3, 4, 5 goals against Brighton. So I think they can easily do the same as Chelsea, because I don't feel like this Chelsea team currently is better than what Brighton had, or what Potter had with Brighton. Seeing as he's trying to work in all the new players into the system and stuff. Obviously they have more talent, but they don't have the same familiarity with Potter's tactics and stuff. So I think Haaland is an amazing option again, and I'm pretty happy to see that a lot of people are ditching him as captain. I think they might be burned from that, but we'll see what happens with him. Kane, like I mentioned, he's probably going to get sold. Still going to consider Crystal Palace. I mean, Kane, he can always score. That's what I said when I brought him in. Even though Spurs have looked pretty bad, he can still score. He could have scored against Aston Villa as well, but it just wasn't meant to be. He had a pretty poor heading attempt. He had a pretty good chance with his head, but just headed it, and Ashley Young cleared it. But yeah, most likely I'll sell him for either Darwin or Mitrovic, like I mentioned. And Nketiah, not really going anywhere, but I'm considering whether to play him or Almiron. I just feel like I have a little bit more faith in Arsenal than I have Newcastle, especially seeing as they are at home. So that's why I prefer Nketiah over Almiron. Nketiah is also really nice differential for me. So I'm going to have to try to do something to gain some rank. But yeah, that's pretty much my team and my thoughts for this game week. I'm glad I was able to get through this podcast without too many breaks in terms of my throat. I'll probably be in a better condition next game week, when I'll be joined by Kevin and Kimo. it's going to be really nice to have the whole crew back together again. I think it's going to really reinvigorate the podcast and everything, and we're going to push on from there and just create better and better and more content as well. I might also do, since it's Gameweek 19 and we're halfway through the season, I might finally do like a recap of my season so far. So I have a lot of decisions to explain, as you can see with my rank down here. It's pretty terrible. Like, I have to excuse it somehow, and also show you that I'm not the worst manager. Like, I actually have some pretty good historical results, even compared to like the top content creators. But hopefully I'll be able to do that video pretty soon, and show you that I'm not the worst manager, and I've actually done some good decisions. Please believe me. But yeah, that's it for me today. Follow us on Twitter at FPL Scope. You can follow me at Mathias, as you can see right there. Also, as you can see above me there, you can join our mini league. The league code is 6IYV7U. We're about, we still need more people in the league. I'm bottom of the league. I think we have like 8 players in the league so far. But please join and bring me further down in the table. I want to try to win the league, but it's not looking likely currently. We have some pretty good squads in the league actually. So it's a pretty competitive league, even though the creators are struggling in it. But yeah, you can join the league. You can like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube video. You can comment in the comment section any questions you have, any potential transfer issues you have. I'll try to answer everything that I see. And with that, I'm going to wish you once again a Happy New Year. I hope all your FPL dreams come true. Well, not really. I hope my own FPL dreams come true, but I wish you well. I hope you have a good 2023. And I'll see you next time. Bye.